I've kept him in this house for 10 years. He's so ungrateful. My mother-in-law openly hostile, believing my husband's lies. My husband himself has changed from the man I once loved into a selfish monster. Is this his true nature? At this point, I don't even care. Enough! Who's the ungrateful one here? Good luck dealing with your bad attitude. My name is Clara, a 37-year-old working at a local bakery. I've been with my husband Albert since high school. His family has a long line of carpenters, and he joined the family business right after graduating. We got married at 24, and we're just an ordinary, happy couple. That all changed when we were 27.
Clara, the hospital just called. Please come quickly.
A frantic call from my usually composed mother-in-law at work. I rushed to the hospital and found my husband staring blankly ahead. He looked defeated, and my mother-in-law sobbing beside him. Clara, I can't move my legs anymore. At that moment, he broke down crying. I realized our lives would never be the same. Apparently, my husband went to the grocery store to buy drinks during his lunch break. My husband was waiting at a traffic light when a car hit him. His spine was damaged, paralyzing him from the waist down. After a long hospital stay, my husband came home, a completely different person compared to before the accident. We were living in a rental apartment, but then my usually quiet and craftsman-like father-in-law said, "You should live with us." And before my husband returned, he made his home accessible for us. We were financially unstable, so we gratefully accepted. "I'm home." He entered the house in a wheelchair, his voice devoid of energy. He used to be cheerful, loud, and always cracking jokes. Now, he was like a stranger. "Clara, is Travis doing well?"
Daddy, does it hurt?
Our 2-year-old son, Travis, was worried. Travis loves spending time with his dad, especially going down the slide at the park. Whenever his dad has a day off, they head to the park and slide until Travis gets tired. Seeing his dad after a long time, Travis couldn't contain his excitement. He tugged at his dad's hand as if to say, "Let's go play over there." But his dad looked sad. Before the accident, he would have easily stood up, put Travis on his shoulders, and spun around. Now he can't do that for Travis ever again. His dad is still recovering both physically and emotionally. Just then, mother-in-law shouted, "Travis, your dad can't walk anymore. Go away." My mother-in-law suddenly yelled at Travis. Travis, only 2 years old, couldn't understand and burst into tears. Mother-in-law looked annoyed. Mother-in-law is noisy about such a son. I was looking at him with a face that said something like that. Mother-in-law has been more irritable. She's probably struggling to accept the situation. "Travis, big boys don't cry. Come on, let's play with Grandpa," Father-in-law said, lifting Travis up. Travis smiled instantly. Father-in-law is usually quiet around us, but he adores his grandson Travis. For a moment, I saw a smile on Father-in-law's face. During my husband's hospital stay, I was summoned by my in-laws. "So, Clara, what are you planning to do? You're not thinking of leaving Albert, are you?" Mother-in-law asked, a bit agitated. Father-in-law signaled her to stop. I wondered, do they think that I'm heartless? Their words stung a little. My feelings for my husband haven't changed, and Travis loves his dad too. We'll get through this as a family. Thank you for your concern. I plan to stay by my husband, I assured them. They seemed grateful. I've read many books to prepare myself, but I've come to realize that good intentions alone aren't enough. Since coming home, my husband has become quite demanding. "That's not it. Come on, get it right," he'd snap, increasingly frustrated. He even threw a book at me once. "You don't understand how I feel." A phrase I've heard too many times. Seeing his changed behavior, Travis started saying,
Daddy is scary.
My son started saying things like that. However, in front of the helpers and friends who come to visit him, he is a bright husband like before. "Well, I guess I'll just take it easy from now on," he'd joke, and I felt a sense of nostalgia. "Hey, Clara, come here." When my husband calls me in that urgent tone, it's usually about his bathroom needs. I was busy feeding Travis and couldn't leave. "I'm sorry, mother-in-law, I can't step away right now. Could you please help Albert?" Even if I say something like that, it'll be awkward for him if I go, right? I'll take over making dinner for Travis. That's what she said, but my mother-in-law hardly took care of my husband. She seemed to chat with him while I was at work, but that was about it. Seeing this, my father-in-law sighed. "I'll go. Clara, sorry for always troubling you." He's gruff, but father-in-law is kind. He's also very proactive about helping my husband. When my husband first came home, he'd ask me, "What are you doing right now? What book is that?" He even helped me study. My mother-in-law didn't like that. "Clara, why don't you quit your job? Albert is in such a condition, you should support him properly." That's what she said. I knew what mother-in-law was getting at. Basically, when father-in-law and I are at work, stay-at-home mother-in-law has to take care of my husband, and she doesn't like it. Even though we mostly have a caregiver for that now. He's her own son. What's her deal? Plus, Travis is going to grow up. My husband can't work properly anymore, but we still need money. So, mother-in-law, could you please help out more? Father-in-law is helping me study, you know? We're family. Mother-in-law sighed at me. "Don't you dare make a move on my husband." She glared at me. What? Is she insane? My husband is still selfish, and mother-in-law says ridiculous things. I've thought about taking Travis and leaving many times. But my parents are taking care of my elderly grandmother at home. I couldn't think of going back there, and I didn't have the courage to live alone with my son. Clara, you've aged. Time flies, and it's been 10 years since my husband had his accident. I'm still working at the bakery. I'm now 37, and Travis is in 6th grade. These past 10 years, my mind has been filled with concerns for my husband and child. No wonder I've aged. Hey, how rude. We're still in our 30s, you know. Sorry. Maybe my husband has come to accept his condition after 10 years. He's started talking to me cheerfully again. While I'm at work, father-in-law, who's now retired, looks after him. As for mother-in-law, she's uncooperative as ever. And lately, for some reason, she's started ignoring me. But I can't think of why she'd treat me like this. Recently, my husband found a new hobby. He started playing basketball at a nearby gym with people in similar situations about 3 times a month. It seems to be a lot of fun, and I'm really grateful to the friend who introduced him to it. "Travis, you want to come too? Basketball is fun." When I tried to talk to our son Travis, he brushed me off saying, "I'm more into baseball, you know." Our relationship had grown distant. Travis, who once adored his dad, now saw him mostly as an angry figure. My husband didn't think he was the problem. "Isn't he a bit young to be in his rebellious phase?" he'd joke, leaving me with no choice but to sigh. Out of the blue, I got a call from my mom back home. "Hello, Mom, it's been a while." What? My elderly grandmother had passed away. She had been suffering from dementia and had been in a care facility for years. She caught a cold, which turned into pneumonia. I was told she looked peaceful when she passed, surrounded by family. That gave me some comfort. Only Travis and I attended the funeral. My parents live in the next town over, a good drive away. My husband stayed with his parents, so Travis and I took the opportunity to visit my family home. Seeing my parents again, they had aged significantly. Well, I guess I've aged too, I thought.
How's Albert doing? Are you getting along with his parents?
My mom asked, looking concerned. I felt like crying just looking at her. Meanwhile, Travis was happily playing video games with his cousins. I hadn't seen him smile like that in a long time. Well, his dad's fine, his mom not so much, I said, forcing a smile. My parents reassured me.
You can always come back home.
Knowing I had a place to return to made me feel stronger. Coming back from a quick grocery run, I find my son standing in front of my husband's room. "What are you up to?" I'm about to ask, but he puts his finger to his lips, signaling me to be quiet. Inside, I hear my mother-in-law's angry voice and my husband trying to calm her down. I know eavesdropping is wrong, but I can't help but listen, and what I hear is shocking.
"Hey, Clara, when are you getting back home? Get back here now."
A few days later, my husband calls, clearly frustrated that my son and I haven't returned. After overhearing that conversation between my husband and his mom, we left his parents' house immediately. We went straight back to my parents' house. When I told them what happened, they welcomed us with open arms, though visibly concerned. "I'm not going back there. I'm a burden, right? I'll give you the divorce you want." My husband snaps.
"What are you talking about? Just come back. We need to talk."
He hangs up abruptly. My parents, who were listening nearby, look worried. My dad stands up and says, "Let's go." We leave my son Travis with relatives and head back to my in-laws' house. Travis, sensing the tension, tells me, "Mom, don't back down." I'm touched by his courage. They better be ready for me. "We're back." Hearing this, my irate mother-in-law storms out to greet us. What's the meaning of this? Oh, Clara's parents. What brings you here today? I sense her irritation despite her polite tone. We're here to discuss Clara and Albert's divorce, my dad says, visibly angry. In the living room, my husband is sitting in a wheelchair, clearly surprised by my parents' sudden appearance. He glares at me as if to say, How dare you bring your parents? He always does this when he's unhappy, just glares at me. His mom does the same. Lately, he's been staring at me like he's watching me, wondering what he doesn't like. They're like two peas in a pod.
Do you always glare at Clara like that?
My mom asks, also angry. In this tense atmosphere, only my father-in-law remains calm. A few days ago, the police came to our house. They said we were mistreating our daughter-in-law. They left after a brief talk. Do you know anything about this, Clara? Yes, I was the one who called the police, I reply calmly. Upon hearing this, my husband and mother-in-law explode in anger. See, it's all her fault. She's crazy. You should divorce her. If anyone's crazy, it's you two. My husband is nodding in agreement next to me. But father-in-law is different. Clara, there must be a reason. Speak up. He says this in a gentle voice. A few days ago, I came back here. Albert and the others didn't seem to notice, but what I heard was so horrifying. I realized I can't live with them anymore. Father-in-law wasn't home at the time. He looked puzzled, but these two are different. Their faces have turned pale. Do they recognize themselves? What are you talking about? Are you okay? My husband looks at me with a smug face, probably thinking I have no evidence. But my son Travis was quite vigilant. Do you want to see a video? Travis recorded this. I play a video. In it, my husband claims that I've been having an affair for years. After that, I'm plotting to take over the house. He says he's told me multiple times he wants a divorce so he can remarry someone he met through basketball. Mother-in-law is furious after hearing this. Divorce her immediately. She's even flirting with your father. I won't forgive her this time. But mother-in-law wants to keep Travis as the heir. The balcony on the second floor. The floor is old, about to give way. Can't we use that to get rid of Clara? Mother-in-law grins as she says this. That's going too far. But if she gets injured, maybe she'll understand how I feel. That's what they said. The video ends and I quietly put away my phone. Of course, I've never had an affair, and this is the first I've heard that my husband has met someone through basketball. I felt my life was in danger, so I reported to the police. That's all there is to it. But the police only said they'd listen to my story. My husband and mother-in-law are silent, their faces pale. Father-in-law looks angrier than ever. What is this? Are you both idiots? I thought I was the fool. Thank you, father-in-law, for always being there. I genuinely felt that way. Despite all this, mother-in-law starts talking nonsense about how parents should let their children be with the ones they truly love. Realizing that staying here would be pointless, my son and I start to pack up to leave. Can you believe her? After letting her stay in our home for 10 years, she's so ungrateful. My mother-in-law glared at me as she usually did and said that. In response, my dad said, I've heard a lot about you from my daughter, but this is the first time I've talked to someone and been so uncomfortable. In response, my dad calmly said, My mother-in-law kept muttering, but wouldn't stop bad-mouthing me. Fed up, I finally snapped, Enough! Who's the ungrateful one here? Good luck with your miserable life, you nasty woman. I left their house with my parents. After that, my husband and I got divorced. Some people who didn't know the full story called me a heartless wife, but I told the truth to my close friends. Word seemed to spread among my ex-husband's friends, and now hardly anyone visits him. I don't know if that's the reason, but after a while, my ex-husband and his mother started reaching out. I never picked up the phone. When they realized I wasn't answering, they started sending a barrage of messages, all strangely pleading for reconciliation. Funny enough, all the messages were about wanting to get back together. Didn't he say he found someone better? Reading his words like, I took you for granted. Now that you're gone, I realize your worth. I thought, realizing it now? Too little, too late. I told my ex-husband, if you keep contacting me unnecessarily, I'll go to the police. And after that, the messages stopped cold. I moved back to my parents' home in the next town over and opened a bakery in a nearby vacant shop. The only employees are me and my parents. My son Travis helps out with cleaning the shop now and then. Travis started middle school this spring and seems to have made a lot of new friends. He's also fully committed to his baseball club activities. Though the bakery was just a hobby at first, thankfully it's gaining a good reputation and we're getting more new customers lately. Welcome. Oh, it's you, father-in-law. My former father-in-law visits the shop a few times a month to buy bread. From what I heard, his son's feelings were one-sided. He was so persistent that he even got banned from playing basketball, which he used to enjoy. Honestly, serves him right. My former father-in-law had said he'd take care of his son. I don't care about you. Do as you please. But he coldly told my former mother-in-law. That seemed to have shaken her, and now she's actively taking care of her son, which made me chuckle. There are some financial worries, but with my parents' support, we're managing. I'm home. Oh, Grandpa's here. Play catch with me. You've grown again, haven't you, Travis? Your grandpa used to be the ace of his middle school baseball team. Bring it on. Watching their heartwarming conversation, I strongly vowed to make the most of my new life together with my precious family.